to use a different name if you'd like. We'll start with, I'm Jack Murphy. I'm the chair of the North Fulton Improvement Network, and a bunch of folks on this call are also members of it. And we're really trying to reduce need in North Fulton to make sure that people, by helping people understand just how what need looks like in North Fulton, in a place that is sometimes considered a Shangri-La. So who would like to introduce themselves next?
Jennifer will, if there's no takers.
Go ahead, Jennifer.
Okay, I'm Jennifer Hartz. I have a consulting firm called Corporate Hearts, LLC. I'm in my 22nd year of independently working for issues around CSR, ESG, DEI. And I'm here in my capacity as a board member of the Community Assistance Center and someone who really wants to work more with George to make this thing sing.
Thank you, Jennifer.
I guess I can go next, since that was a good intro, Jennifer. I actually, George Northrop, and I'm director of the Career Center at Community Assistance Center. And this is a relatively new effort. We got it launched in late 2021. And of course, Jen has been a huge help to us. So, and as have Jack. So.
And I'm Shirlene Anderson. I work with the Drake House as the career coach, and George and I are working together on this committee.
Not just working together, co-chairs.
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 I'm with North Fulton Community Charities, and I've been with NFIN for many years and really do celebrate and appreciate its work and impact.
My name is Patrick Rayleigh. I'm the talent acquisition partner with Ryerson Steel, located in Norcross. Pretty much I serve as a jack of all trades, and my purpose is to help people find their purpose in the metals industry.
I'm Lisa Ruth Carnes. I'm the Workforce Development Coordinator at North Fulton Community Charities, along with Carol Swan. We, very similarly to George, just started a new workforce program back in March.
Nisha, I think it's you.
Oh, sorry. I'm Nisha Mason. I'm the Executive Director of the Drake House. I really appreciate the work of NFIN and Shirlene representing us so well on this work group. So I'm looking forward to hearing from Lexus Nexus about the partnership.
And we have thank you, Nisha. There's somebody who's not on camera, Discus JH.
Yes, that's myself. That's Jane Dykes. I am here in support of Lauren Hutchinson, who is our speaker from Lexus Nexus Risk Solutions. I, until recently, served on the board of the Drake House, and am very interested in these issues associated with employment in our North community area, or North Fulton area.
Excellent. Cheryl?
Hi, I'm Cheryl Carter. Are we introducing ourselves? I'm the Director of Programs for the Drake House. And I am very much interested in outcomes-based activities. And we are working with our clients diligently every day to ensure they move closer to earning a living wage, that they increase their credit score, that they're able to pay 3 times the rent in our program. And we also are working with them to address any other barriers that they may have for not only acquiring, but sustaining housing. And we are so happy to see Jane, ex-program team member, on the call today. Thank you so much, Jack.
Well, thank you, Cheryl. We also all gave our age, but no, we didn't really.
21.
And
no problem.
We saved our speaker for last. Lauren, you can see that we're a rather informal group here. So
yeah, that's great.
If you want to tell us anything about yourself before you get started.
Yeah, so I am Lauren Hutchinson. I'm a senior manager at Lexus Nexus Risk Solutions, and my area of focus specifically for myself and my team is recruiting individuals who typically sit in the data, product, marketing, and kind of anything else area for North America specifically. Some work in Mexico, and sometimes our work spills over to the UK. I manage a group of 6 individuals, and we are mighty and strong and made up of a bunch of great recruiters. Been recruiting for over 18 years. I think it's about 19 at this point in time. Like most recruiters, happen to fall on this by just having the gift of gab and being able to sell a little bit, and but not wanting to be a salesperson. So that's typically where a lot of us end up. And so I've had a great opportunity of working specifically with Shirlene, and then, you know, being able to partner with my colleague, Jane Dykes, and working with the Drake House. So I'm honored to have an opportunity to present to this group today. And as you said, Jack, you guys are informal, and so I'm going to be to some degree informal and just really allow really fluid conversation here. I did have some slides, but there's 4, you know, just so I can kind of keep on track too.
You have control if you'd like.
Fantastic. So I will get going here, and I do want to kind of preface this too. For myself personally, I have a huge regard for charities that serve women specifically, but women who are mothers, or women who have children, or women who have children who are trying to get their children back. So that's a very specific cause to myself, and personally, very close to my heart. So you might see some of that kind of come through in this presentation, just simply out of my own egotistical desire to be associated with these people, these wonderful people. All right. So let me, this is a new one for me, so I apologize. We usually are on Teams, so I got it. All right. So Lexus Nexus solution, you guys see it? All right, yes. Fantastic. And I'm just going to let you know when I'm in presentation mode, it looks like I can't see your faces. So if you have something, just holler or speak up, okay? So our organization that is headquartered in Alpharetta is 100%, you know, really directly associated with Drake House, and in many regards. And I'll kind of walk through this in various different reasons, but the partnership that we have has been a long-lasting partnership, and it's really been a mutually beneficial partnership. And you'll hear that kind of go throughout my presentation here of why it is. But more importantly, you know, this is a group of people that we've worked with, that we have seen a lot of opportunity for our organization to also flourish. So part of the reason why we started some of these activities with the Drake House, specifically the recruiting piece of things, and I'm kind of focusing there initially because that's where I sit, was bringing diversity and inclusion. And I think D&I is a huge hot topic issue for a lot of corporate organizations right now. Our CEO is definitely on top of it and pushing that down to his directs and down to us. But what I think is really important when we're looking at a partnership from a career perspective is not so much the diversity part, but more so the inclusion side of things. And I don't think we focus that much on that. We're always like, who can we bring to the organization who has, you know, a different background, or how can we bring somebody who might be LGBTQ plus, or have, you know, some sort of extra need in terms of an exception to their work environment. Maybe they are blind or deaf, or maybe they have dyslexia. And we're kind of a lot focused there and on gender. But what I don't think we focus on as much is diversity of thought, and how people think and what their backgrounds bring to the table and how they look at problems. But more important about the inclusion side. So how are we empowering individuals? How are we engaging individuals? How are we enabling them to do their best? And how are we allowing them to bring their whole self to work? And then as an organization, really coveting that individual to create an environment that's going to allow them to be who they need to be, accomplish their goals, have their voice heard, and be able to share ideas based off of their backgrounds. And this particular side of my slide is exactly where I think Shirlene specifically and our organization pair the best. So So I think when we looked at forming the partnership, we looked at a couple different things. So we looked at what is our company looking for? And for us, it was multifaceted. We were looking at a place locally where we can augment. So we wanted a place where we could help with services, that being, for watching children so the mothers can go to a meeting, or we're providing meals for a particular meeting, or we're helping to, really kind of redo one of the apartments that the families are living in. How can we do that? Or it's more service-based. How can we do resume reviewing, interview coaching? How can we work directly one-on-one to provide opportunities to these mothers who, as you heard before, are looking for very specific things? How can they afford 3 times their rent? How can they get their credit scores up? All these things really are a cyclical relationship here. So which organization would be a good partner? As a corporation, I think that that's critical to look at. What are we looking for in terms of partnership? Are these organizations, local? Or you'll see my last bullet point, does a partnership exist across all our offices or just locally? We've been able to use the Drake House as kind of a formula to partner with other organizations in other parts of the United States, or even in the UK to some degrees. And actually in the UK, we have a like-minded program that actually augments, some of our hiring directly through some internship and apprenticeship programs. So we've been able to use this model and kind of carry it throughout our various different geographies and offices, which has been really beneficial for us. Do our values align? 100% they do. We at this company, I will tell you, and it's not just me tooting our company's horn, we walk the walk and we definitely talk the talk. And so when we're talking about bringing your whole self to work, that is very, very much appreciated, and we actually celebrate that. So we know that there might be some contentious situations going on, or there might be a little bit of a struggle or stress, but we allow that person to show up to work that day, get their job done, and know that we're helping them kind of get to that point of time where they can graduate from that program and become successful themselves. And then how can we be mutually beneficial to each other? Shirlene and I a lot of times talk a lot about roles, the hours that they're responsible for, if there's a childcare element that's involved, how that happens, if there is a transportation component in place, how that needs to occur. And so how do we do that? And I've seen Shirlene be able to really flex where we've needed her to. So we can arrange childcare to go a little bit longer because maybe the person works till 6 and they need to get their child to pick up by 7. Or we have the capability to arrange for transportation for that individual to make it to, let's say, our Duluth office or something to that effect. And so we've really been able to lean on each other. And Shirlene's been able to say, hey, Lauren, I need this. And I've said, great. And hey, Shirlene, I need this. And it's just a really mutually beneficial partnership. So I think, and I'm not accustomed to this type of thing. I'll be honest with you. A lot of the organizations that I've worked for in the past have had causes that have been a little bit more superficial. And by that, I mean something larger like the Susan G. Komen Foundation, where we've done a walk and we've not had an exact touch on the individuals that we're really trying to help, or we've not had a direct interaction with that. Or let's say Juvenile Diabetes Research Foundation. Those are great organizations, but the benefit I think for us specifically is we are in North Fulton. That's where our office is. We're directly augmenting individuals who live in North Fulton. And as a result of that, our mutual living environment is becoming better for everybody. And so it's been a really great partnership. But because of that, we've been able to go a little bit further than maybe some of those really large, high, big 501c3s can as a result of that. So our relationship, or my relationship with Shirlene specifically, is really about identifying opportunities. How can we identify opportunities to get the moms engaged and really be able to get them employed, or get them services that will get them employed with another organization if it's not ours? How can we provide training resources to them? Like I talked about before, how can we engage in philanthropic activities? We've done, right now we're doing the clothing closet right now. So, suits and clothes that individuals can go and actually interview in or show up to work in, making sure that that's put in place, but then also contributing to the secondhand store that they have as well. And then how can we also engage in leadership opportunities? So Jane was referenced before about sitting on the board. I know we've had some junior members sitting on the board as well. That has certainly helped us not only engage as a corporation, but also engage in our community as well. And then on the other side, I have Shirlene, who is really staying in touch with me regularly. But she knows that, if we're working together from a job perspective, there's some responsibility on the Drake House's behalf to make sure that those mothers are staying engaged, that they're continuing to coach their moms, to be good employees. We'll do that side on the corporate side, but she's doing that more on that personal side and that really personal life touch of things. She does a lot, and the other women do a lot in terms of organizing engagement opportunities for us to partner and from a corporate perspective. And then we do a lot around, just kind of ad hoc engagement as well. That is the extent of my presentation, ironically, and I'm going to flip through a couple of screens here because I forgot what I was on. There we go. But I think what's most important here is that, and I'll selfishly tell you this, I probably get more out of a Saturday session at the Drake House than I would ever just by doing a walk, and just kind of because I'm seeing the individuals that I'm helping. And then seeing those individuals show up to work in our office, hearing success stories. We've had a bunch of promotions because not only have we poured into those individuals as great timing. Not only have we I have like this giant dog, so I apologize. She's very protective of her home. But us pouring into not only, the individuals from a job perspective, but Shirlene and team mutually pouring into those individuals really makes a really successful match. But then you see those individuals flourish. And so what we're doing at that point in time is Shirlene and team are checking off her boxes and what they want to do for that particular mother and that family. But we're also doing the same on our side. So there's so many, it's such a great mutual benefit for everybody. So I would tell you that while we still do those big far touches and those far organizational reaches, we do that as well, through all of our nonprofit pieces here. I would definitely tell you that really partnering with somebody who is a local organization who has the capability to look out their window and see that person standing there is the best thing for all of us. And I think that that's why we've gotten so much out of our partnership with the Drake House.
Lauren, that sounds like a great partnership between you guys. What types of roles do the women typically start in there? What are they? Customer service roles, research roles?
It's odd because the Drake House serves everybody. And so we've seen individuals who've had extensive master's degrees, and we've had individuals who've had, a high school diploma. So the great part about that is we have the ability to augment in many different directions. What I think is a little bit of an abnormal thing, George, is that we have some mothers, understandably, who lack confidence and may not know how to represent themselves. And so they may have a background in hospitality, for example. And so working with us, a lot of times what we'll do is we'll coach them along to not only getting their resume in a place that is effectively operational, right? So they can slide into a nice operations role or a call center or customer service type of role for us. But what we also do is show them how their skills translate into that. So when they're on the phone with somebody and they're interviewing with them, they have the capability to best represent themselves. So there's no one role that they fit into because we're working with so many different individuals that we really have to kind of figure out how that works for them. And thankfully, we can typically find something for everybody. And there have been instances where, for example, I don't have a great correlation to somebody and them getting a job with us, but we still want to make that person important and feel important and make sure that they have the confidence to wherever they go, we can, push them to another opportunity with another organization for sure.
Gotcha.
I just want to say thank you so much, Lauren, for your partnership and for articulating the relationship so well. And I think that point that you just made about helping them build up their confidence is so key and significant. Obviously, Shirlene does a wonderful job at doing that on the program side, but to have an employer partner who understands that as well, and to help fully equip them to be able to take advantage of the opportunities that are before them, I think is tremendous. As to your point, as what you said earlier, whether it's with LexisNexis or another organization, it really is. I appreciate the ways in which you guys pour into the women that we serve in such a way to help them be successful, whether it's with your company or not. And the other thing that I just wanted to say too is that the way, I think one of the other sides of the partnership that makes it so successful is the integration. You spoke to, Jane being on our board and having members on our advisory council and seeing the mission and all that is poured into it on all sides of it. That to me is what really makes this such a phenomenal partnership and truly intentionally mutually beneficial. So I really appreciate your representation in the way that you and Shirlene clearly work so well together. Thank you.
Well, and Nisha, I appreciate that too, because you allow us access to your clients, which is not a normal thing, right? There's not a lot of times where you get to see the person and actually get to be able to speak with them. And that's really what makes it personal for all of us. I think Jane feels it probably the same way. I don't want to speak for her, but I can, I think.
Yep, you're right.
Yeah, I just
personal side of things where we actually get to meet the folks on the Drake House campus and get to know them a little bit personally and are able to help them through that personal
and so it's
relationship.
One of those things, when we have the capability, we're not just painting an apartment, we're doing that, but we're being able to really touch that family too, and through the women, in many cases. And I think that that's probably the biggest thing. I think being a female and being a mother, I've also had a lot of respect for a lot of these moms who have just maybe gone in a different path, right? And I think for me, it's really humbled myself, but made me want to empower them more to really know their value and their worth and their position, and know that it's a temporary situation and that we'll get back on track. And I think that that's where the work part comes in, is just being able to say, okay, I've got this, and this is going to help you get to this next step. But being able to really work with those women, it's just been such a joy for sure.
I love that. Thank you so much.
Well, I agree with Lauren. It's been great working with her, and she's unique in a way that she does things out of the norm of a regular recruiter. And not only when she gets them in the company, then you have Jane there who will call them, go to lunch or talk with them to make sure the culture is, fitting for them. So I think it's important to have the holistic approach. And they have that. They have the recruiter helping to get them in, to talk with them, to make sure they're in the right job. And you have Jane inside to just touch base with them to see how things are going. So I really appreciate all the work that you guys are doing and our relationships. I've known Lauren since I've been at Drake House. And so we've been working together for 4 years. So it's been great.
This is Jennifer Hartz, if I can ask a question, sort of related to exactly the depth of this thing that we're trying to take on. How much training and support do the, I don't know what term to use, the people who are partnering with the client? It's deep, it's scary, it's personal, it's intimate, and people move around a lot. So one is, how do you keep a volunteer or a professional comfortable and engaged with the client, and vice versa? And what do you do when that person moves to Raleigh-Durham?
You mean after they graduate from the program?
Well, I guess graduation is a time of transition, right?
Sure.
But how long is that time period? If somebody, if I'm mentoring you or following up on you, and I got to move or I'm too busy, how do you keep me engaged?
So I think I'm going to kind of dissect that a little bit, Jennifer, and it sounds like you're kind of talking about two different things. So I think Shirlene and their approach at the Drake House is going to be a little bit different than mine from an employer perspective.
Right.
So Shirlene, do you want to talk a little bit about your engagement until they graduate from the program? And then I can touch, Jennifer, on what we do as from a corporation perspective for sure.
Thank you.
Our moms are with us until they get, for 90 days or 180 days, wherever it takes. And we try to get them employment within the first 30 days. So I'm with them, even when they're out of the program, I'm with them. We have a professional group, which they enter into as a member to stay with them to make sure they, succeed in their career. So I'm with them all the time, no matter what. When they leave the program, I'm with them in an alumni status. But we work with them, not as mentors. We don't have volunteers working as mentors. But when I talked about Jane, she was somebody in the company that was on our board that took the initiative to go and talk with our moms when they get employed. So actually, so it wasn't a mentor and mentee relationship at that time.
Thank you.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and then I was gonna say, I'm sorry.
I was just going to say briefly, Lauren, and you would probably state this much better than I do, but we at Lexus won't hire someone who doesn't meet the qualifications of the job. So Lauren will work with them and see if they do meet the qualifications of the job, but she's not going through extensive training with them to get them capable of taking that job, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
Yeah, and then Jennifer, we will, like I said before, there's definitely interaction with moms or Drake House, women who are not going to be employed with us. It's either we can't employ them, we don't have an opportunity for them at that moment, or what we do here doesn't maybe necessarily jive well with what they want. So there may be that circumstance for sure. What we typically find is that when we do engage somebody, like Jane said, that we are looking for somebody who meets the minimum criteria, just like any other organization would on their job requirements. But prior to that, I have worked with multiple individuals to make sure that their resumes look good, that they know how to interview, that they feel like they can be successful in the interview, whether that's with me, Jane, Shirlene, whomever, Jack. It's really about them feeling and being ready to be prepared to be successful themselves. So that kind of checks all of the boxes in terms of what the Drake House needs from me. When they get with me, you better believe I'm going to be really coaching them along the interview process, because I like to win like everybody else does. And I really, really want to see that mom be successful. So we'll coach them along in their interview process to make sure that they know, hey, after you're finished with this, you need to send a thank you note. Once you're done with this, here's some good questions to ask. Here's some things to mention about the individual. If you're questioning this, here's the way to ask that, those types of things. So we can kind of get them along in the interview process, because again, a lot of this is not lacking skill set. It's lacking confidence and the capability of thinking about those questions to ask. Once we do get them engaged in the organization, it's a full throttle approach. I mean, you've got myself and the talent acquisition team, you've got your HR business partner, you've got people like Jane who extend themselves and act as a resource internally to that individual. You have your current manager, you have your team, so our organization, because it is so vast and because it is so matrixed, we have all these resources that can come and pull in as to make sure that that individual feels comfortable and confident, ready to move. Now, if they graduate from the program and they decide to move to Raleigh-Durham, that's going to be a conversation at that point in time as to if we can accommodate that or not. One good thing that came from COVID was the capability to really recognize that a lot of people can, in fact, work from home. And so us coming into commercial real estate offices anymore is not necessarily the most important. I'm looking at your pictures right now, and I think over half of us are probably working from home today. So that might be a conversation at that point, but we'll manage that individual's career once they come on with us. But in tandem, the best part about that is while we're managing that person's career from a professional perspective, Shirlene's still coaching that person along. So she's doing regular check-ins with those individuals to make sure that they are in fact meeting expectations. Do they have any questions or concerns? Is there a conflict that arises that Shirlene's going to help coach them through with one of their peers or something to that effect? How are they then managing the rest of their pieces as a result of that? So it's really kind of a tandem move forward at that point in time, with us being on the professional side and Shirlene touching the professional, but the life side of that particular individual.
And
So
Jennifer.
yes, ma'am.
Jennifer, I also wanted to say some things that we do if they don't have a position that our moms are qualified for, we do offer certifications, training, education in a way. And so when they get to that point, we go back to them. Okay, they're ready now. And they would take another look at them.
Do you have volunteers conducting any of those?
I have a volunteer only, they may come in. LexisNexis has come in, they've done resumes, interviews, whatever we need, they can come in, do the workshops. I've had volunteers to come in, do LinkedIn. I have a volunteer group of HR professionals that do mock interviews for me ongoing. So I do have some volunteers that will do some of that stuff for me.
That's wonderful. Thank you.
And Jennifer, I was gonna say, Jennifer, the other thing too is that I think it's important, and this might be like a really kind of like asterisk we really encourage all of our employees to get involved, and we do so much so that we actually give all of our employees 2 days of PTO, so 16 hours to volunteer every single year. And that's during work hours. And then we also augment that. So like September was what we call CARES month, and that's CARES is what we do, that's our kind of our philanthropic component to our work. And for every CARES hour, the company made a donation. So all of us were like hurriedly trying to get our CARES hours in. So I do CARES hours with Shirlene. I do some CARES work with what used to be known as House Hope, Home of Hope here in that county where I live. So I do some things with them. And then I mentor a third grader in one of our local elementary schools every year who just has some behavioral issues. So I see her every week. I actually just saw her before I got on this call with y'all. So we are encouraged to do that. And so us taking time away from work or going to see Shirlene is a part of our culture here. You're not going to join our organization and probably not be engaged in some sort of volunteerism. It's just not how we work here. It's really coveted. It's a part of a lot of our team meetings. We've been at the North Fulton food pantry before, doing some work for them, actually like packing bags of rices. So we do heavy lifting as well. But part of what we've done is with Shirlene's group, and it's a pleasure that I literally have about 12 people at my disposal that I can say, hey, we need to do this for the Drake House. We got to go Saturday morning. Everybody get up. We're going to do this thing. Let's go. And everybody's ready to rock and roll.
I was just going to say, this sort of reaffirms a lot of what I've seen since doing this role, is that, how important that personal connection is that, the way that hiring has traditionally worked, where you're trying to sort a resume through a machine, it just doesn't work. And the only way to kind of make this work is somehow, create that avenue to different companies where you can get that face-to-face connection, because people that are never going to make it through a traditional channel, when you meet them, you just see that with a little coaching and some help, they're 90% of these folks are employable. And so that's more and more become our goal, is how can we create those face-to-face connections with companies in the community. So what's been successful here is exactly what I've been discovering as we've moved along here. So.
Yeah. And George, a lot of organizations from a job perspective don't have a talent acquisition team that actually has those face-to-face interactions. That's right. Like you were talking about, using kind of that scanning software to look through resumes and find people is becoming an anomaly. And even in our organization, some of our sister companies don't use recruiters anymore that are employed with the organization. They're employed through a company like Korn Ferry or Ronstadt or something to that degree. Yeah. And I would tell you that yes, that takes out the personal approach. Obviously, that's not working. For our part of the company here in Alpharetta, really finds a lot of value in having that face-to-face contact. But I'll tell you, in even circumstances outside of the Drake House, I have more alignment with the candidates that I've employed just by my having conversations with them. And the same respect that I show to those individuals is the exact same respect that I show to the Drake House moms. It's no different. And
Yeah.
so that's when it becomes personal to the person as well, that it needs to become something that is an important cause to them. And that's why I kind of preface my conversation by saying, empowering women, making them feel important, knowing their value, knowing their worth is incredibly important to me in my daily life. And so that's why it's a huge win when we get somebody from the Drake House employed even more.
No, that's great.
Yeah.
I mean, a lot of times it's really it's definitely a win-win, right? These are hidden gems that we find from a talent perspective. They're people, as Lauren has said, that aren't confident or aren't able to communicate, but actually have such valid backgrounds that are just come in and they're excellent employees. So that personal touch is a huge part of it.
Yeah. Well, a lot of what we find is just people just don't know how the system works. I mean, they just have no idea. And so a lot of it's just like, they're never going to find something without some help. And then once you give them that help, it's just amazing how that it all works. But the face-to-face piece is so critical, I think.
Yep.
I love that language that you use, Jane, of the hidden gems. I've been thinking as I'm listening to this conversation, and even as I reflect on the relationship that we have with LexisNexis, how do we package this message in such a way that it is compelling for other employers and other corporations to try the same model? Especially, as we look at, because, for those of us who are working with the nonprofits, we know that we have the hidden gems in our clientele. But how do we share that message with the business community so that they can recognize the gold mine that we already see?
Yeah.
And I think that's where that mutual benefit piece comes into play. I think it's really about, what do you all do that we're needing, and I think, from our perspective, not only did we need a local place to partner with from just how can we help you? How can we augment some of your programs with either financial need or manpower? But then I think that transitioned into, we need people to work here. You have people. Part of your program is employing individuals. So this makes even more sense for us to kind of partner together. So it's about that part of things, and I'm sure that there's other organizations that we would partner with. We do some work with Junior Achievement as well, where, we're kind of working with them, from a work perspective, or, some STEAM and STEM programs, just because of the nature of what we do here with the data. But there's not like a real desire to employ. It's kind of more brand recognition at that point in time. That's where I feel it gets a little like, not so sure. Do we want brand recognition? So when the 17-year-old right now gets ready to be employed, they consider our organization because they remember working with us? Or do we have the complete capability to put hands on them right now and say, we can help you, let us help you. We're here, we're present, let's get you into a job. So I think it's a couple different things. I think a lot of corporations, and again, I said this before, we walk the walk and talk the talk. We're not here for just brand recognition, for putting ourselves as a presenting sponsor on something. We're here because we legit have a concerted interest in what you're doing there, and we want to be hand-in-hand partners with you too.
Yeah, I think that is the core difference. It's part of your culture. As the company, and that is what makes it a huge difference. So,
and I'll be honest with you guys, I've worked nonprofit before. It was my first job when I moved to Georgia. I worked for Junior Diabetes Research Foundation. My sister-in-law is a type 1 diabetic, and participated in putting all those walks together and having Delta as a presenting sponsor. And I saw the Delta employees during that walk, but I never saw a Delta employee in our office, sealing envelopes. I never saw somebody, there doing the work with the kids when they were diagnosed with diabetes. I never saw any of that. It was, and God bless them for giving us that money, because we needed every bit of it, but they were a name on, a banner. And that's, I'm going to say, if you're going to lead with identifying partnerships for corporate organizations to be a part of, lead with, we want you to be more than a name on our website. We want you to be more than a name at one of our events. We need you to be present. And I think that that's probably going to make more of an impact.
Yeah, I think that is truly what is so valuable. And I think that the other thing that you mentioned when you talked about, with the 17-year-olds, are you putting hands on them and hoping that, will we bringing them all the way through, or are we just hoping we get that name recognition? I really want to encourage more corporations to think about their nonprofit partners from a workforce perspective. And that's the piece that I feel like, to your point earlier, so many, it's like we're going to check the boxes of philanthropy and charity, but not recognizing the resource that we are looking right past. And that's the messaging that I wish that there was some way, we could capture and relay, because I don't know that corporations even consider it.
No, Anisha, that's where you can, again, D&I is a hot topic. It's like replace the word culture from organizations, like D&I, we need to make these numbers. I'm going to tell you that that's where we can do that. So we don't want you to just be a presenting sponsor at this particular gala or this walk or this event. We want you to be in a situation where you're actually have, feet on the ground in our office and augmenting that way. But more importantly, we have the capability to help you have an inclusive environment that is going to be welcoming of these individuals. So we have the capability to bring diversity to your workforce. And I hate to have kind of this like wiggle in, but that's a great wiggle in for anybody, is really that piece of things. I think all of us have learned a lot from Coke, where Shirlene used to be employed with, their D&I initiatives. And I certainly have learned a lot about that as well. And but that's an immediate win for any organization.
That's a great nugget.
Yeah, and that inclusion piece needs to be paramount. I don't think people talk about what inclusion means, but the inclusion part of that niche is how we also welcome that person into our organization and covet them, how they can come to their workforce or their day with being their full self and their full human being, knowing that we're going to support them too. So, I'm not looking for somebody who's just Latina or, somebody who, has a need in terms of their learning disability or something like that, needs an accommodation. I want that person to feel included here. And I feel like hiring that individual will bring something into our fabric that's going to make us a better organization as a result of that.
I love that. That's very helpful. Thank you, Lauren.
Hi, all. Sorry, meeting ran half an hour over, but Lauren, I just want to comment a little bit on the fact that, we at BDI here, we've run the events, we've had the sponsors, but it was a light bulb that went off because we do so many placements in the community that we weren't making that part of the ask, or not even part of the ask, part of the reminder. It's like, hey, you've been a sponsor for all this time. These are some of the types of jobs that we're filling with our program participants currently. Just to give you an idea, to maybe remind your people and culture departments, HR departments, that we have individuals that we're placing internally, but also with community partners. So as we're talking about sponsorship, let's also talk about this. And that was something that we weren't doing.
Right.
We had sponsors for 15, 20 years. And our contacts at the companies typically aren't the contacts that are doing the placements, that are talent acquisition. So it's making sure that the right conversations were happening with all of the contacts at our partners.
Well, and you and I both know, and I'm certain that, Patrick feels the same way. We all immediately go into the LinkedIn pool. So all of us jumping together and we are fishing around for the same talent and stuff. And in these cases, there might be somebody that's not in the LinkedIn pool that, like to Jane's point, that hidden gem that we're finding that's not, on that site because they've got a lot of other stuff going on. And that's very much a secondary or third kind of focus for them. And so that's where I think we have the capability to do this. There's been a lot of times in our organization where we've looked to partnering with diverse sites. We have a couple relationships right now, and do we get talent from those websites, or are we looking for more brand recognition that we are an employer of choice for individuals who want to bring their full self to work? It's probably a myriad of different things there, Todd. But I do know that there are definitely places that we can look that are maybe alternative resources from a recruiting perspective. But I would tell you, yes, hook up, be like, hey, it's great. Thank you so much for your sponsorship. But I would love to know if there's a recruiter on staff that I can get connected to. There have been many times where I was sending Shirlene just job ads, whether or not she had anybody. Here's what we got for you. Here's what we've got. And whether or not she had anybody, it could have been, a week-to-week basis. And a lot of times she'll say, hey, I've got this person. What can you do? And we'll just push that resume out. So I would tell you, if you want to do the job route, getting connected with somebody who makes it a personal cause, though, that's the other piece. A lot of people will do it from an operational perspective, but you got to find somebody who it's important to too.
And that's really how our relationship progressed between LexisNexis and the Drake House. Initially, we didn't have this talent acquisition piece, but I believe it was someone from the Drake House said, hey, in our next meeting, let's invite somebody from recruiting. We did. We invited Barbara Blevins, who runs Lauren's division. And Barbara was smart enough to find Lauren, who was incredibly passionate about this topic. And Lauren's been working with us ever since. So it was certainly a progression there as well.
Lauren, you've said so many things that resonate with me, things that I've heard before and said before. I really appreciate you being here. When I was the diversity officer of McGraw-Hill, I would talk constantly about diversity of thought. And people just didn't get that. They thought it was all about external appearances. And so it
drives me bananas.
I know. But the thing I want to mention to the we have 3 employers here on this call. And I'm glad they're all hearing this message. Lauren, I hope you tell it to 1,000 other employers. But one thing that the nonprofits have to realize is you've got to market these people. I learned this morning that NFCC sees 10,000 people a year. Let's say half of those are employable. That's 5,000 people you can get off of assistance and into the job market, and the companies need it. But the thing that's blocking, most of you know I work at the Metro Atlanta Chamber, and when I talk about these things, the answer is, well, let's turn to the standard work source companies, the industry that helps pair people for jobs. Well, we all know that not everybody needs to go get another degree from another institution or get certified for another thing. They just need somebody like Lauren to sit in front of and prove who they are. And so we've got to go to places like chambers and say, yeah, don't forget about the nonprofit providers that tap into this underutilized workforce. There are 92,000 people unemployed in the Fulton County MSA in August. More than that, about 180,000, according to the Bureau of Labor Statistics, are underemployed or discouraged people that aren't in the workforce. We see those. In addition to the folks that are officially unemployed, we see the people that are drastically unemployed who can't make it through the month without coming to us. And we have to, I think, market those. So congratulations, Shirlene, for the work you've done. George, you're doing a great job. And so is Lisa, Ruth, just making these connections. And we need lots of them.
Well said.
Any other questions?
Thank you, Lauren. You did a great job. And Shirlene, thank you for introducing Lauren to everybody. That was awesome.
Well, Lauren's mine, so don't go to LexisNexis, okay?
I knew you were thinking that.
I had a call the other day, so we had a call to prep for this, and I was like, hey, so like, what do you want me? She's like, well, make sure that everybody knows that you belong to the Drake House. I was like, okay, so that's why my start starting sign, my starting slide, Shirlene, was our partnership.
Yeah.
Perfect.
We're not gonna poach on you, I promise.
Well, just let me ask, Lauren, do you have every job in the company filled?
Right now, no. Jack,
Okay.
I wish we did. Goodness, it's an
Sure.
ongoing
Sure.
issue. It's like.
Exactly. Shirlene, do you have people in need?
Yeah, I do. And
I think
have,
there's enough of both to go around. So I don't know that we should, put the cone of silence around these folks. No, the more people understand what nonprofits have to offer, like LexisNexis, the better it'll be for all of us.
Wow.
And the great part about it is, we have tons of them. I mean, 400 is the technology corridor of the South. So we've got so many individuals who are ready to rock and roll there. And, I think that there's a lot of opportunity for sure.
That's great.
Daphne,
Well, listen,
Patrick-
I've got to run.
Okay. Can I ask a question, George? You can go ahead and leave.
Oh,
if you
yeah.
want. I won't
Sorry,
be
Jen.
offended. How does where people live versus where people need, where our office is? What are we going to keep doing remote for that? Transportation is a big issue in that corridor.
It is. And I think, for us specifically, we are on a bus line, so it does help a lot. The bus is probably, I want to say maybe 100 feet from our office. But we have taken a lot of our entry level roles, and actually they are work from home, or at least our hybrid approach where the person's coming in maybe 1 to 2 times a week.
That's good.
Yeah. So I would tell you it's probably kind of, maybe per role. I don't mean to be so, kind of vanilla about that, but I think it has to do maybe like a little bit
it's
per
just the
role.
facts.
Yeah. And, I think a lot of those roles, honestly, Jennifer, that are going to be entry level are going to come with a workforce management component. So that person's going to be monitored, if they're on the computer and actually participating during the course of the day. Like the majority of us, we're probably able to schedule our day how we fit and, kind of go in and go out. And my laundry room's right over here, and I do the laundry every once in a while and come back to my computer. So that might be different for those various different individuals, how they kind of are able to approach their workday based off of the leveling of the position. But yeah, I think it's going to be based off of what the employer requires too. I personally don't think that there is a huge need for people to be in the office so long as they're being accountable and meeting their measurements and their goals and objectives. But that's, I'm not hiring everybody's employees.
Amen.
So we have 4 minutes left. Daphne, Patrick, anything as employers you want to add?
The only question I had is, where can I get more information, Lauren? Do you have obviously probably a website set up? Is there any information you could provide us?
In terms of what, Patrick? What kind of information?
How to partner with your organization?
Well, if you're an employer, correct?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. So you wouldn't want to partner with me because I'm a corporation as well. So I don't know that would be a good, because if you're coming from a corporate perspective and me being corporate, we're probably in some regards kind of trying to get the same talent. What I would probably direct you more towards would be working with Jack, or maybe somebody else who's maybe Lisa Ruth even, who has the capability to kind of connect you maybe with more of a candidate base. Okay. And then if you wanted, Patrick, you and I can talk offline about our engagement and how we have a successful way of doing that. That might be a good way to do that.
That works.
Patrick, this is Jennifer Hartz. You could partner with the community, excuse me, guys. You could partner with the Community Assistance Center. And if you want to, Google up the Community Assistance Center, it's called OurCAC.org. And you can also hit me up on LinkedIn or whatever floats your boat, because that we're looking for employers.
Patrick, can I ask where you're based?
Norcross.
Norcross. Okay. So NFCC is in Roswell, so we're pretty close. If you want to have a conversation about that, I'm basically Georgia's counterpart. So CAC has a career center program, and we just started one here too. So happy to have a convo offline.
Perfect. Thank you.
And then Patrick, I'm sure Lisa will mention this to you when you talk, but they have the capability to bring staff members of yours into whether it's their food pantry or their resale store to actually volunteer. And so it might be a good partnership to get in place just so you can, again, have feet on the ground and this becomes personal to your organization. I think that again is what's been critical to our relationship with the Drake House.
You can always call the Drake House.
Wait a minute, you just said that nobody else can talk to LexisNexis.
I'm not very giving, but I'll take it.
It's okay. You can take all you need to. You're a nonprofit. You get that.
Since George jumped off, I was going to offer Lisa Ruth, but Jennifer jumped in too quick. So hey, thank you. Thank you. That's okay. That's your job, Jennifer. Thank you all for being here today. Thank you all for the work you're doing and for the partnerships. I hope you continue to correspond with each other and stay in touch, and we'll see you next time.
Thanks, Lauren.
Thanks, everybody.
Thanks,
Thanks, everyone. Bye.
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 Bye.